back to the Pigskin Podcast. My name is Ben Pherson. This year's Jason Feldman. Feldy, special edition of the podcast today.
It's early.
It is early in the week.
And early in the day, too.
We're recording this on a Monday because the games are on Wednesday this week.
Usually it's nap time.
It's a fun week, the regular season.
It is.
I don't like that.
I don't either.
Can't believe
Though we get to start playoffs in 2 days.
I know, but football's almost over. That's what that means to me. So I'm not happy. But let's talk Vikings and Gophers real quick. Vikings, big win. Over the Packers. Really dominated the game. I heard Packers quarterback got hurt. I'm not sure his name. I guess that's a big deal for some people. Not a big deal to me.
Well, we're just used to it here.
Yeah.
We know how to handle nice things in Minnesota because we don't get nice things.
We're on our third-string quarterback, second and third-string running backs. You know, we know what injuries are like, so I don't want to hear you whining.
No whining.
It's not our fault. We didn't base our entire organization on one dude. So.
Well, maybe we would if we had play for longer than like a year.
If we had Aaron Rodgers, we would do that, but we did not. So
it was a good win, though. I mean,
it was a much needed.
Much needed.
You know, but I still don't doubt that they will be very ready without Aaron Rodgers when the Vikings come out there in a couple weeks.
Well, really, I think what we saw on Sunday is what we already knew about the Vikings. Defense is really good, and the offense is good enough to beat teams that don't have a good defense. And when the Packers send a whole team over to the injury table during a game, that helps our cause.
Their defense already wasn't that good. So.
Again, not that we're feeling bad for them because we know what it's like to have players injured. Good players, bad players.
At any rate, Pikes headed to the Super Bowl. They should be good to go now. And, you know, are we out of our stretch of? We're finally out of our stretch of divisional games here now. Who do they go against this week?
Now we got the mighty Baltimore Ravens coming to town.
I like that. That's another W.
Another W, 5-2, baby. Mark it up.
Just rolling. So Gophers lost. They made a nice comeback behind Dunray Croft in the second half, and it was time. It was absolutely time to make that switch. I think we would have seen that switch sooner. If Mr. Croft had not gotten in trouble. We still don't know what it is. I don't know what it is, and I cover the team. There are people who do know what it is, and I've heard rumors, but I'm not going to report on rumors. But I don't know what he did. But either way, it got to the point where, you know, whether he wanted to put him in there or not, I think, as you see, I think he really does give this team the best chance to win, especially with what they're trying to do with that read option. To have a quarterback who actually might keep it on the read option, let's do that.
As much as PJ Fleck wants to take this year and make it all about instilling the culture and the attitude that he wants, I think it became quite obvious to him, too, that a switch needed to be made. And I'm sure whatever it was that Dunray Croft did off the field has been discussed over and over again, or he would not be back on the team. So there has to be at least some level of trust there from the coaching staff with him. Not in terms of how he's going to play so much, but just how he's going to handle himself away from the team.
Yeah, that's. I'm certain why he did not see the field for a while. And I didn't know if he'd be back on that program the way they made it sound at the beginning.
So with the way they rebounded after the switch, do you have confidence that there's another 3 wins on the schedule somewhere for this team to get to a bowl?
I do. I really do. You know, and obviously those were winnable games. Those are games I wanted them to get. This one a little tougher. Obviously, Michigan State is better than people expected. Had a lot of momentum coming here. But I think the way they played, my biggest disappointment was the compete level of the defense in the second half. It was like they quit on that game.
Which is not what we're used to seeing this year from the Gophers.
No, their defense has been good, but they looked like they were disinterested in the second half of that game, and the tackling went downhill real quickly. Excuse me. But
you okay?
Yeah, the good news for them too is they get a nice little bounce back spot here against Illinois, who is very, very not good at football.
Sounds like a win.
Well, they're favored by more than 2 touchdowns, which is a lot of points for another not that good football team to be getting. But hopefully they'll get back on the right track. Feldy, let's get to the next one.
Let's do it.
So we'll go right away with our players of the week. Feldy, I like yours, but we're going to do mine first. I'm just going to give my entire one to the Stewartville defense. You know, not all of those fumbles were super forced fumbles, but either way, they scooped them up. Stewartville put the ball on the ground once, and they got it back. Lord put it on the ground 8 times and missed 7 of them.
Well, there's something to be said for taking advantage of turnovers. And
they did.
The way we did that.
Yeah, and when you lose fumbles on your first 4 possessions of a game, you're not going to win that football game.
Especially against a team like Stewartville that I think is finally starting to get healthy. And we'll talk about them here in a little bit, but they're getting better, and obviously everything they touched last week worked right.
Well, and every game they win this year should frighten the bejesus out of the rest of the team in this section because they are young. They're super young. You know, they got a freshman quarterback in Cheddar. who looks fantastic actually for a freshman. I know he took a little bit to get going, but who wouldn't as a freshman get thrown into a varsity football? 6'6", that's a little scary for a freshman. And watching him throw it to Burry, or however you pronounce his last name, another freshman. Myrie's a sophomore. This team is going to be dangerous for years to come. And all those kids are contributing significantly right now as freshmen and sophomores. So, yeah, good luck beating them. So I'm going to give it to the Stewartville defense. I don't like copping out like that with the whole unit of the team, but the Stewartville
I think
defense,
they earned it last week.
They were. Stewartville defensive line was phenomenal last weekend. I talked to Coach Meyer a little bit about this because it seems like of all the teams in the area that have figured out what to do against the option, Stewartville does it as well or better than anybody. They cover that option out. It helps when you see it practice, but for whatever reason it is, Coach Myers figured out something on stopping that option. And I asked him about it. He said, we probably commit one more guy to the box than most teams. So I would guess they've got 8, 9 guys in the box at all times against an option team like Lure. But I really think the difference is penetration. When you get penetration, you disrupt the option. I think you get a guy in that backfield, throws the entire timing of the option off, and I think that's what Stewartville does better than
I haven't seen Stewartville play against Lourdes, but I remember growing up in North Dakota and watching the North Dakota against North Dakota State rivalry. North Dakota State ran that option for years and years, and they ran it to perfection. And finally, North Dakota switched to a 3-4 defensive front, and you could see, like you talked about, they committed at least another guy to being up close to the line of scrimmage and stopping the run, and that really worked well. And that's not to say that's a blueprint for everybody to stop Lourdes, because we've seen that offense do some good things, but Stewartville certainly has the athletes. And like I said, we'll talk about them a little bit later here, but I'm going to give my player of the week now. We're going to stick in that same section. 1 AAA. This is a kid we've probably been trying to get all year into this spot because he's such a talented athlete. We've just been waiting for the numbers to show up, and that's Jacob Niebuhr, the senior wide receiver from Zumbrota, Mazeppa. Had a big night on Friday, 4 catches, 62 yards, and a touchdown. 2 touchdowns, and he returned an interception, 102 yards for a touchdown late in the first half that sort of kind of put the dagger into Dover Yoda in ZM's 34-7 win. So we're going to go with Jacob Niebuhr this week, so congrats to him. And a ZM team, that we've talked about all year, that's probably better than its record indicates.
Well, and Niebuhr, I said it at the beginning of the year, he is, to me, in my eyes, he's the best receiver in the area, and it's not close. And there's some good receivers in this area. Now, if he was on a passing team, a team that truly was committed to the pass, the numbers that Jacob Niebuhr would put up I can't imagine what they are. Because his burst is incredible. He's got a really fast first step, and you see it a little bit more on defense than you get to see it in offense. But yeah, he's a very talented individual.
Sounds like he can jump a little bit too.
You got 6'2" down here.
Which is what he's listed out on their roster.
Yeah, I don't doubt that he's closer to 6'4", but maybe I'm just guessing wrong. But he's a big target, big athletic target, great hands.
Believe it or not, I'm not a great judge of height.
Well, you just know they're taller than you.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I didn't fall behind again in the picks. We didn't get many right again.
No, we're not having good weeks here.
We kind of predicted that last week. We kind of thought that those were some trap games, if you will. But so we both went 4-3 again last week. I've been really even with you like the last 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah,
really
hanging in there,
charging up to way behind.
So very Brett Hundley-like.
Right,
hanging in there and fighting through it.
You just blitz me on every play. So yeah, okay. Well, let's get to the picks this week. Another slate of very important games, particularly when we start looking at. Well, I'm looking at the section I cover, 1 AAA. Every game is very crucial.
There's a lot of games this week that are going to determine everything. Not only playoff seeding, but whether teams are going to be at home or on the road for the first round, or whether they have to go up against a number 1 seed or number 2 seed. So everybody's really got something to play for this week, and it'll be interesting to see how a lot of these shake out. So
the first game you got down here, Lewiston Ultra at Cannon Falls. Lewiston is 3-4. Cannon Falls is 2-5. Ironically, Cannon Falls is going to host a playoff game.
Amazing.
In that section, Section 4 that they're in. I'm going to go with the Bombers, even though it's maybe someone would call it an upset. I know Hofstad was a little banged up, and he didn't play in the second part of that Triton game, but I think the Bombers are figuring it out, and their line is so good. It's going to be a good game. It's going to be a close game. I'm going to go with Cannon Falls 27, Lewiston Ultra 23.
Yeah, I agree with you. I like the Bombers' size. I don't think we could even necessarily consider that an upset. I think that it's 2 probably pretty evenly matched teams. It's at Cannon Falls, like you said. I like their size along the line. It's a young team, but they've certainly grown and improved as the season has gone along. But like you, I think it'll be close. I'm going to take Cannon Falls 21-18.
And the next one is Chatfield at Dover Iota. Chatfield comes in at 3-4. Dover Iota is 2-5. They're not in the same section, but this is a big one for seeding for both teams. Dover, can move up a spot. They're going to be jockeying with Zambroda down in that portion of the section 1 AAA. Feldy, you're up first in this one, and I am glad because I'm going to take whoever you do not take.
Okay, well, this is the route we went with Dover Iota last week. I picked them. Thought maybe I could spring an upset there against Zambroda Mazeppa.
You were way off.
Not so much. So I'm going with Chatfield this week, 31-16.
All right, I'm going with Dover Iota. Clearly, Dover is the team.
They'll probably play for you, I'm sure.
No,
sure.
That's not been the way it's worked this season. But
Sure.
Dover Iota, they've played a lot of close games, and they're not getting blown out by people. Now they did, like you said, Zambroda's kind of figured things out. I think they're going to be a dangerous team.
And to be fair, Dover Iota, prior to last week, their previous 2 games, they had to play against Triton and Caledonia. So that's a bit of a difficult stretch to come back from.
And the reality for Dover is, if they're going to compete in 1 AAA, they got to be a team like Chatfield.
Right.
Otherwise, you're going to have a hard time when you start looking at facing one of those top 4 teams in 1 AAA. So
Top 5 teams, really.
Well, you can go all the way down if you want. I mean, like Crescent beating Lake City last
That whole
week.
section is just going to be, as Ben Halden, the Bayern coach, said, that section is just going to be wild.
Yeah.
And he's right.
Yep. All right, and then the next one, John Marshall at Mayo. John Marshall is 1-6. Mayo is 3-4. Feldy, I got to pick first.
You're up.
That means I get to pick the Spartans. I just think Mayo is playing its best football. They finally got some guys back, and they're just, they clearly are a more confident bunch, and they've got a very good line, and they've got a lot of guys back on that line. So I'm going to go with Mayo. That said, it's an inner city. Nothing.
These games always seem to be close no matter what, the JM Mayo games. I know we said that about the Mayo Century game earlier this year that ended up being, about a 5-touchdown difference. But I don't remember ever covering a blowout when I covered Mayo between these 2 teams. But like you said, the Spartans are getting healthy. They're gaining some confidence. And by the way, they held New Prague to minus 14 yards last week. It's a pretty good defensive effort.
It's decent.
So I'll go with Sparty as well. I think they get a late touchdown to make it a little bit more of a point spread than the actual game might indicate. 27-16.
See, I have 21-7. I didn't say that, but that's what we're going to
Fair enough.
All right, next one. Maybe more interesting than people know. I think Austin. Austin is at Winona, number 1 in the state for a reason. Austin is 4-3. Their losses are all the good teams. They're not a bad football
And they
team.
can score some points.
They will score some points. The only team that's been able to shut them down is Northfield.
Right.
Even Watauga couldn't shut them down. But you look at you're talking about a team with 3 losses. There's 2 of those losses, and then Mankato West being the other one.
Right. That's 3 really good teams.
3 really good losses. Now, do they have enough to overcome Winona? I don't know. I guess it's your pick first.
Yeah, I think, when you talk about the loss to Mankato West, I think Winona's even a better football team than West is. And they showed that on the field a few weeks ago. Winona hasn't given up more than 14 points in a game this year. And one of those games was against West. The other teams they've played don't necessarily have the offenses that Austin does. So I think Austin scores a little bit more, but this Winona team is just, it feels like, I don't know what's the right word, destiny maybe. Like they're on a mission.
Yeah.
After losing in the prep bowl last year. So I think Winona wins by a couple touchdowns. I'm going to say 34-20.
Well, you talk about it's cliche to say it, but games come down to offensive and defensive lines, and I think Winona's got a group that's as good as any in the area. So the next one is maybe the best game of the week. Blooming Prairie at Rushford Peterson. Both teams 6-1. Rushford coming off, they bounced back last week, but they're coming off a loss to Goodhue, and that's the loss for both of those teams is to Goodhue. I got to go first. I think. I don't know if we'll call it an upset, but I'm going to go with Blooming Prairie. I think Blooming goes down to Rushford and shows what they're made of. They got a big win last week too. I mean, that's an impressive win for them. So I'm going Blooming in a somewhat high-scoring game, 34-22.
Yeah, I've had a chance to see both of these teams play. Both times against Goodhue, actually, both of their losses.
So you know how they stack up.
Yeah, the RP game, I felt like, they lost 36-0 to Goodhue, but up until about the last minute of the first quarter when the lightning hit and there was a long delay, I thought RP was playing right with them. I don't know that would have continued for a whole game had the conditions been ideal, but I think this is going to be a really evenly matched game, and I had Blooming Prairie written down earlier.
You change it?
I'm changing. I'm going RP 28-27.
Here comes the
Davin Thompson, the RP coach, told me that his guys liked it when I picked against them, so maybe I'm
Now you're
actually,
picking for him.
yeah, maybe I'm actually hurting them this week.
We're about to kick him like that.
Shot 28-27, RP. Don't let me down, Trojans. Next game.
I'm not saying anything. Lured at Pine Island, another one that could easily be a game of the week type game. Lured coming off the absolute drubbing by Stewartville. It was, Coach Kessler said it best, and I don't know what to say to you about it. That's kind of what I said to him afterward, too.
He was
I don't know what
speechless?
to ask you, Coach.
Coach Kessler was speechless?
He was speechless. You know, it's one of those ones where you're like beyond disappointed. You don't know what to say. And like it was the compete level. We talk about compete levels, and there was a little bit. It wasn't all there for Lured. That we'll just say that they need to bounce back. Now they don't get a great spot to bounce back against a very good Pine Island team, a team that is better than their record indicates. I think Pine Island is a very. I think Pine Island can win that section. I mean, they beat Stewartville. If they beat Lured, they had a close game with Byron. It was a 27-21 game with Byron. I don't see anybody that they can't run with in this section. So it's a dangerous game, but I think Coach Kessler and the Eagles are going to get back on track here. And it's going to be a close game, but I'm going to go with a Ben Lindbergh field goal, winning it with just seconds remaining, 24-21. I'm going with the Rochester Eagles. They're going to get some kids back this week too, which is a huge thing for them. Having Grotebor out last week was big. Not taking anything away from Stewartville, though. I mean, Stewartville was flat out the better football team. But and Stewartville knows about injuries. They've had plenty this year, too. So there's no excuses in the injury thing for Lured. They got to be better. They got to be better in this game. And they moved Hayford in at quarterback in the second half of that game, and he looked good. So I think Coach Kessler has a tough decision there. And either way, they'll be utilizing Leary, whether it's receiver or running back or something else.
And at the very least there, if he feels like he needs to make a switch during a game, there's some confidence in the kid coming off the bench.
Definitely. So, Feldy, who do you got?
My choice? I think it's going to be close too, but I'm going to go the other way again.
I thought you might do that.
I like the way this Pine Island team's playing, especially over the last month or so. And, they gave KM a pretty good ball game last week. Casamanerville, who hasn't had many teams come close to challenging them this year. I'm going to take Pine Island at home, 30-26.
Blowout.
Yes, a blowout. Yes.
Wow. Now, this last one, I'm also glad that you got to go first again here. Byron at Stewartville, it is our game of the week. There's no game of the week vote this week since it's a short time frame. So we just let this guy pick.
I had my pick written down and I scratched it out like 3 times here.
Well, I'm excited to hear who you pick here. Just to let it dictate.
I know Lords turned the ball over a lot last week, but Stewartville had
a lot? That's kind of an understatement, Feldman. They lost 7
like
fumbles.
A record number.
Yeah.
But Stewartville had to do something right to capitalize on those turnovers.
Yeah, they just picked him up.
And the reason I kept scratching my pick out and going with the other team here is because from talking to these coaches, especially Aaron Meyer from Stewartville, he mentioned that Byron, from the start of the season until now, was probably the most improved team that he's seen. If we remember, Byron opened their season with a big, big loss against Triton. But they've come back.
Turns out Triton's super.
Turns out that's not such a bad loss in hindsight. Their other 2 losses are to Casamanerville by 3 points. By far the closest game team has played this year, and 1 point against Lured. But on the other hand, I don't know, who should I pick here, see?
I don't care who you pick because I'm picking
Stewartville, 29-27.
Oh, why do you do that to me? 29-27?
Yes.
All right, I'm picking
really,
the Bears.
I really have no idea.
The Bears.
I don't know.
You're right. The Bears are, first of all, they might have the best defense in the air. Their defense is amazing. And it's getting better. People don't throw the football on them. They don't run the football on them. They're a good defense. Whether they can score enough to beat Stewartville is going to be the question. I think Byron needs this to be a low-scoring game. But I agree, they are the most improved football team in the area. And talking to Coach Halder about that progression, he said it has been. It's been every week. He's felt like it, win or lose, he's felt like his team has played better every single week since the beginning of the season. So it's going to be tough to do it down at Stewartville. But I'm going to pick against Stewartville just because Adam Peterson called you.
I was going to say, I feel like if I didn't pick Stewartville, Adam probably wouldn't have me in the press box.
That's probably right. So I'm going to go with the Bears. Bears need it to be low scoring, so I'm going to go with the Bears 14-13. That's it, Phil.
Yeah.
Now,
That's our game of the week, by the way.
Yeah, it is our game.
Wednesday.
Feldy will not be back next week.
No, who's in my place?
I'll find a replacement.
It's
If you want to be my co-host next week, just let me know.
Is,
And if you
is
don't,
Francis coming back?
if you don't, Francis will be back, and who knows what she's gonna wear. We don't
She
know.
did a great job last
She
year.
did. She was way better than my normal co-host for the
Well,
show.
and the good thing is she can't lose my lead in the picks.
If you could, because I won't have your pick, so you're definitely going 0-7 next week. I will be right back in this thing.
I'm going to post them on Twitter so everybody knows that you're
Just don't
full of it.
Don't do that. But anyway, get to a game on Wednesday night, and then go to a game Tuesday, and then go to a game Saturday, and then Friday.
That's a lot of football.
But thanks for watching,
Okay,
and we'll see you next week. Sort of.